Hello, okay, for those of you returning to the channel, welcome back, and for those of you that are new here, that have just stumbled upon this video, then thank you for joining me. And if you find yourself wanting to stick around to follow just some random Welsh geek ramble on about film and TV, then please hit that subscribe button, it will mean an awful lot to me. And yeah, welcome to my spoiler-free review of Mortal Kombat 2, a martial arts fantasy based on the video game series of the same name that started way back in 1992. And I've got something to admit to you. Something that I'm embarrassed to admit. And that is, I've never seen any of the other movies. I've seen bits of them. I've seen bits of that first live adaptation from, I think it was 95, if I remember correctly, directed by Paul Anderson. And I'd seen bits of it as a kid, but never watched it from beginning to end. And the same goes for the most recent movie, Mortal Kombat, the 2021 Mortal Kombat, that was also directed by Simon McQuoid, and he returns here with the sequel. I watched the first 10 to 15 minutes of the 2021 movie, but I fell asleep and I never returned to it. But I've been really looking forward to this. I've been really looking forward to Mortal Kombat 2 because just from the glimpses that we've been getting from within the trailers, it just looks to be a lot of fun. It kind of looks as if they're really honing in on sort of the kind of the 90s aesthetic, you could say, of those video games and just 90s action movies in general. So 2026's Mortal Kombat 2, you could say, is my first real kind of dive, or my first experience watching a Mortal Kombat movie, and I am ashamed to admit that, by the way. So the movie follows Earthrealm's fighters as they enter the interdimensional tournament called Mortal Kombat against the brutal forces of Outworld, led by the tyrannical Shao Kahn. After the events of the 2021 movie, Raiden gathers returning champions while also recruiting the Hollywood martial artist Johnny Cage to help defend Earthrealm from invasion. I have played the video games, so I am aware of the world of Mortal Kombat and most of its characters. And the one thing that I was really wanting from this movie is what they were promising with the marketing and, you know, the trailers. And that is just a damn fun, entertaining ride that kind of just takes me back maybe to a certain era of films, you know, of filmmaking. And yeah, that's all I really kind of wanted today while going to watch this movie, was a film where I didn't really have to use my brain, but just be entertained and have a fun time, and at least to some degree get behind the characters that we are following here. And what I will say is, for the most part, it does a pretty good job at achieving that. And that's because it pretty much knows what it wants to be, and it's reflected within the writing, the performances. It really does lean into this sort of 90s action movie fantasy aesthetic, and I found myself having a really good time. Like, I had a real fun time watching this movie, and I knew from the first 10 to 20 minutes of this movie that I was going to enjoy myself, that I was going to have a good time, because it's very obvious within that first 10 to 20 minutes what type of movie they wanted to make you. And it opens with a very straightforward, basic and familiar setup for our two main characters, Katana and Johnny Cage. But they're effective. Yes, they're familiar, and, you know, we've been there a million times before. You know, when it comes to the journeys of these characters, they are very straightforward. We've seen it a million times before. But it's effective because they know what it is they want to bring to life here when it comes to this experience. And that is just a dumb, fun, entertaining ride that does capture the essence of 90s fantasy action movies. And that's why, for the most part, this movie, I just found the entire experience to be incredibly entertaining. It was a load of fun, and a lot of that is because of how it's written and sort of the delivery of the lines as well by the cast. Like, everyone knows, you know, the type of movie they're making you, and even, you know, it's reflected within the performances. And it's when it comes to the writing and the performances and the humour, it was very important to get those key elements right here. Otherwise, tonally, this could have been a mess. As much as I enjoy this movie, it does have flaws, and I feel like more so in the first 30 minutes, there is a sort of an awkwardness as well to just how the story plays out. It's still effective. You know, it sort of just sucks me in. I'm immersed and I'm just having a good time. You know, I'm not looking for something incredibly intense here, thematically or anything like that. I just want a good, fun time and be entertained and at least to some degree care for these characters, but also buy into the type of experience they're attempting to bring to life here. And, you know, like I said, it achieves that because of the writing and how sort of the dialogue is delivered through the performances. You know, it's all those kind of different elements of the experience that allows this movie to work as well as it does. But for me, there was a slight awkwardness at the same time, especially within the first 30 minutes with how it kind of just sort of came together. How these different sort of aspects of the story came together. The one aspect that I found myself really admiring with this experience was that sort of that kind of nostalgic throwback to 90s action fantasy movies. I feel like they do a pretty good job at capturing that sort of 90s aesthetic here, whatever that be through the set design, the lighting, the performances, and even the practical effects. I was quite surprised by the amount of practical effects that was used here within the movie, and I just really appreciated that. And it was as a result of using or leaning into practical effects that kind of just allowed me to enjoy this experience even more. Though, you know, there is still a heavy use of CGI throughout this movie, and it doesn't always work. Like, for example, there's this one moment. It's a fun scene. And it's a moment where, if you've played the games, it's going to really make you smile because of how this scene is shot. But I just felt like, compared to sort of other moments within the movie, it sort of stood out due to its sort of reliance on CGI within that moment, which, granted, it's more of a fantasy environment that they bring into life compared to other moments. So I'm not surprised that, yes, there's more CGI used within this certain moment, but for me it just sort of stood out, and especially when it comes to the kill within that moment, and just throughout the movie really, when it comes to kind of the kills, I do feel like there was perhaps an over-reliance on CGI when it comes to the blood and just sort of the brutality of those moments. For me personally, and this is just a personal, you know, my own personal preference, I kind of wish they'd lent more into practical effects when it came to the actual kills, and it ended up being a little bit frustrating for me because there is practical effects on display here within the frame. You know, you've got actual stunts being performed within the frame with very little or no CGI, and there's prosthetics. You know, there's a lot of practical going on here within the movie, so when you do get that CGI, and what I thought was maybe an over-reliance of it on times, I just found it to be a little frustrating. And so as a result, when you do get some of the kills, which are brutal, I'm a little bit taken out of them because the CGI doesn't quite work for me in those moments, and I just found myself, because of the fact that we are being treated to practical effects, then maybe they could have used practical to bring those moments of, you know, fatality to life. You know, I feel like it just would have been a hell of a lot more fun maybe, but that's just my own personal preference there. And I just loved the lighting in this movie. I just loved sort of the cinematography and the look of it, because it's through the lighting and through the set design where I feel like they really do capture that kind of 90s action movie fantasy aesthetic. And there, you know, and again, you know, it fueled my frustration when it came to that kind of perhaps the over reliance of CGI in certain moments, because when you do get these moments where you've clearly got actors on a set, I just find it really refreshing when you get experiences like this, where you have our characters within these kind of very fantastical worlds, and there is an attempt there to bring these worlds to life through practical effects, through actual sets, not just relying, you know, on blue screen and green screen. And I did really appreciate that attempt here. You know, there are some scenes that just had me beaming, that I was grinning, because you can tell that our actors, our characters are there, you know, on this set, and the way in which they're set up with the lighting, there's just a very kind of retro approach to how those moments are brought to life, and I was just grinning year to year because it's just something that I really missed. But it also kind of leans into or plays into the type of movie that they were attempting to make here. And there's even moments where I felt like they were sort of showing off, where it was like, look, you know, look what we are doing here. We're actually bringing this world to life for you within the frame. And, you know, like, for example, you'd have a moment with the camera, you know, you'd have this kind of tracking shot with the camera as it's moving through the set. And at times it felt like, you know, they were saying to us, look what we've done. We've actually brought this to life for you. It actually exists within the frame. And yeah, I really found myself admiring that aspect of this movie, of this experience. You have a great score by composer Benjamin Wallfish. He's one of my favourite composers at the moment, and he gives us a great score here. I do wish... I kind of wanted more of Techno Syndrome, you know, that classic Mortal Kombat theme. I wish they'd used a little bit more of that within certain moments. You do get it, but I just feel like it was a little underused. But no, a great score by Benjamin Wallfish. So they are my thoughts on Mortal Kombat 2. I had a good time with this. I enjoyed it. It was entertaining. I had fun. It was exactly what I was in the mood for this morning, and it gave me exactly what I was expecting. It's not without its flaws. I do have issues with it, and I do think there is a clunkiness or an awkwardness within the first 30 minutes with how sort of the story plays out. Mainly when it comes to the editing, there is like a choppiness with the editing. But overall, I had a real fun time with this movie. Is it great? No. But it isn't a terrible movie either. And the reason why this movie works for the most part, the reason for why it sort of holds it together for me is because it knows what it is. It knows what it wants to be, and it leans into that. And it's reflected through all sort of the different aspects or elements in how the experience is brought to life. Whatever that be, you know, the writing, the performances, you know, the performances capture sort of the cheesiness and sort of the silliness of what is being brought to life here in a way that just allows you to just go along for the ride. You know, this isn't just a dumb ride or a dumb experience. It's a fun dumb experience. And there's a bit of a difference there, because this could have derailed tonally. But there is something about how it's constructed, it's how it's brought together, you know, through all those different elements that just sort of hook you in. Well, it did for me anyway. So it's not without its flaws, but I had a fun time. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't go running back out to see it in the cinema again. I mean, catching this in 40x might actually be fun. So if I was to watch this again, I think that's the format that I would probably go for. But it's worth checking out. I'm probably going to get it on 4K when it's released, because it is one of those movies where if you're feeling like you just want to escape for 90 minutes or 2 hours and just have fun, just be entertained. Nothing too intense, nothing too taxing emotionally, but just to have a good old fun time with a film or with an experience that transports you back to a certain era of films or filmmaking, then, you know, you're going to have a good time with this. And so, yeah, they're my thoughts on Mortal Kombat 2, and I will be giving Mortal Kombat 2... my thoughts on Mortal Kombat 2, but what did you guys think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you agree or disagree with anything I've said? Then please let me know in the comments below, and let's get a discussion going. And if you've made it this far into the video, then thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And remember, if you want to watch future movie and TV reviews from just some random Welsh geek rambling on, then please hit that subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. And just a massive thank you to everyone that has supported the channel, whether that be liking, commenting, subscribing. it means the world to me. It will always overwhelm me that so many of you already do want to follow just some rambling Welsh geek talk about films for about 20 minutes. I've got a lot planned for the channel. I do plan on doing my Star Wars ranking within the next week to celebrate the release of The Mandalorian and Grogu. And I'm also planning or thinking of changing the name of the channel. So at the moment it's me, my name, Ashley Thomas, but I am thinking of changing it. But what do you guys think? Should I keep Ashley Thomas or change it to something that's maybe a little more catchy? Maybe there are a couple of ideas that I'm playing around with, one of those being Rambling Entertainment, because I like to ramble and it's a riff off Ambling Entertainment. And then you've got something like Lights, Camera, Ash, maybe. I don't know, let me know below. Maybe I'll create a poll. Just let me know what you guys would prefer. And yeah, that's it from me. Enough rambling from me. Thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'll be catching you guys soon.